lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slain, an It Slays podcast production where we review the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
Hey, it's Jill.
In this episode, we're talking about The Conjuring: Last Rites, which was released in theaters September 5th. Jill, we have never on this... No, that's a lie, isn't it? We've done Conjuring universe stuff on Now Slain before. I don't know if you personally have, but
we did Nun 2, the Nun 2.
Were you on the Nun 2 episode?
I think it was just me and you.
Yeah, there's no way Colton would agree to do that one. So
I think he's always at TIFF when these come out, I feel, actually.
James Wan just hates Colton, so he's like, I got to put him out when he's not going to see it. But yeah, and I mean, on the main episode, we've kind of, I think I've always joked a couple episodes that, like, we've never done any Conjuring movie or anything like that. But this is definitely the first Conjuring movie we've ever talked about in the podcast history. So what's, like, your relationship with the Conjuring series and then, like, the Conjuring universe as a whole?
Well, first of all, I just think it's funny that this is the first, like, actual Conjuring movie that we're covering, and it's the last one, like, the last installment in the franchise. That's kind of hilarious.
Is it, though? We'll talk about that later.
But it's on brand for us. I mean, I've always liked the Conjuring movies. I think I've talked about it when we did that episode of Now Slaying on the Nun 2. But I really have fond thoughts and memories of the first two Conjuring movies. I feel like that's kind of the holy grail of this franchise, and they're all directed by James Wan, which I'll talk about that later. But the other Conjuring universe movie I really like was Annabelle Creation. I feel like that movie, for some reason, was the scariest movie I ever watched, and I remember watching it in theaters. I think that was 2017, and it actually made me scream in a theater. And I just feel like, I don't know, that's what I think of when I think of Conjuring movies, just like that kind of pinnacle of James Wan greatness. So yeah, I like them, but you know, I'm not blind. I know there's a couple of like stinkers and sinkers in the franchise as well, but generally I think they're fun. They're kind of like a mainstream horror movie that everyone knows about, and I think they're terrifying also because it's like supernatural kind of content, and that's the kind of stuff I'm scared of, like exorcisms and possessions and stuff. But what about you? Why don't you enlighten us about your thoughts of The Conjuring?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've probably, I don't know if I've fully given my thoughts, but I've kind of danced around it, I think, before, just in passing about it. So I kind of came to The Conjuring really late. I didn't see any of the Conjuring movies until like 3 years ago, maybe. It was just a series that kind of never interested me. I was kind of like, oh, you know, it looks a little too like mainstream popcorn for me. When the first one came out, I was definitely getting into, like, you know, more just 80s stuff and more indie stuff than that. And I'm not overly a huge guy on the series. I'm quite vocal in the group chat and with Colton and stuff. I think Colton is a fan of the first one and maybe the second one. I just don't get it. It's kind of like the Insidious thing with me. Like, it's the same.
They're very similar.
Where I missed the train on that too. And then when I watched them, I was like, oh, like maybe I just had to be there. It's kind of like, I feel when I hear young people talk about like the Blair Witch Project now and feel like they don't get it, and they're just like, this isn't scary, and it's like, oh, well, you just like, you had to be there when it was released. So maybe I just don't have that bit of...
Or you don't like Patrick Wilson.
I love Patrick.
One of the two.
This is kind of my, you know... But yeah, so I think the first I've ever seen of these was like The Nun, and I only watched The Nun so I could review The Nun 2. And I was like, I better see the first one so I can see the second one. And then I went and watched the Conjuring movies. I still never seen an Annabelle movie. I did see the it's like the ugly stepsister of the universe. It's like The Curse of La Llorona.
Oh, yes.
Who is the same director as this one, and I'm sure I'll talk about that. Michael Chavez. Yeah, so I would say I don't have like a great relationship with this franchise necessarily.
So sad.
But can I conjure up some good things to say about this? We'll find out after we listen to the trailer.
Everybody ready?
The one case that we ran away from has found us again.
Conjuring Last Rites, rated R, September 5th.
The Conjuring Last Rites is directed by Michael Chavez and written by Ian B. Goldberg, Richard Niang, and David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, and the synopsis is as follows. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren take on one last terrifying case involving mysterious entities they must confront. So here on Now Slaying, we like to start with the spoiler-free section first. So Jill, as someone that is a little hotter on this series than maybe I am, why don't you start us off with some of your spoiler-free thoughts?
Yeah, so first of all, this kind of sums up what I was saying earlier, but this installment in the Conjuring universe perfectly sums up my feelings for the Conjuring franchise in general, because it's kind of a mixed bag. Some of the Conjuring movies I really liked, like I said earlier, 1 and 2 and Annabelle Creation, and others are just okay, and some I actually haven't seen yet, mostly because I'm afraid it'll be bad. Like the last Conjuring movie, the third one, The Devil Made Me Do It, I haven't seen it. I don't know if it went straight to streaming when it came out or not, but I heard it wasn't good, so like I'm afraid to watch it.
I randomly, that was the first one I ever bought. I think just because I was getting ready, I was like, I'm going to watch the Conjuring series. And it must have been around that release. So I just remember when that came out, I bought like the Blu-ray or the 4K or something. And
okay. You haven't seen it yet, right?
yes, I have. Annabelle is the only thing I haven't seen in this series.
Okay.
I've seen everything else. I can't really remember it. I remember it wasn't great, if I do recall.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I've heard. But for me, the Conjuring movies are the strongest when James Wan is in the driver's seat. And that sentiment rings true for this movie as well, which isn't directed by James Wan. And honestly, I think it's kind of a detriment to the movie with it, especially being the last movie in the franchise. So much of this movie is about going full circle with Ed and Lorraine's like first haunting till their last haunting in case, right? So I think it would have meant a lot more and would have been more well executed if James Wan were directing this. But I really enjoyed the narrative of the Smurl family experience. The acting there really shined for me, and I was very much interested in their story specifically. And it was nice to see the Warrens again, and I liked peering into their past. I always enjoy seeing Patrick and Vera play the roles of Ed and Lorraine Warren. And I did enjoy most of the movie, especially the first half. Maybe the first half to the first 3/4 of it. It took a stab at cementing its place within the Conjuring world, and I think it mostly succeeded. It does seem to kind of ride the coattails of the other film's success just a little bit. And they set out to make a finale to the series, and I think they did so. So what I didn't like about this, kind of what I was just saying, is not having James Wan be in the driver's seat for that full circle moment. I think it would have been more similar to the first 2 movies that I love so much. The other thing I didn't like about this was that the length of the movie was definitely noticeable.
Way too long.
Yeah, that's what she said. They could have cut it down a bit. And some parts of the movie just seemed like straight up repetitive, like they would repeat the same scenes. Another thing I didn't like was that it was kind of over the top cheesy at certain points with how sentimental it was. This could have reined it in a bit for the timing. And this is kind of the same thing that goes on in the Insidious franchise as well, is that they're like, I don't know, they're kind of like the hallmark of horror movies. Like,
I think that's
they
the
put
best
so
I've
much-
ever heard it described.
Thank you. But it has so much, like, there's so much family values, especially in this movie. Like, family is very important. It's kind of wholesome in a way. There's never like a bad or sad ending. Like, no one really dies or anything like that. So yeah, this one, especially with it being the very last movie, I understand why they went so heavy on that stuff, but it kind of made it less interesting to me. But I'll talk about more later. I kind of want to hear what you have to say. Sorry, I'm rambling.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're kind of hitting some of the points that I also had on this too. I mean, the length was just pretty brutal for a Conjuring movie. Even though, like I said, I don't overly like anything in this series. 2 is probably my favorite one. I do have to say, I thought 1 was like kind of overhyped when I saw it. I was like, oh, there's like some okay scenes in it. There's kind of like signature 1 scares.
Yeah.
But this, yeah, is very bloated. And I get they're trying to do, a goodbye, as this is supposed to, supposedly supposed to be the final film, although they've kind of made sure in marketing to tell people it's the final Conjuring film, not any of the extended universe, so that they can continue to do it. But I just felt like, I could see so much of this. I'm like, I can see what they're going for, but like, stuff like the family aspect and Ed and Warren's relationship as they grow older, and now their kid is an adult now and growing her own life. I just wish they were able to fit it in like an hour and 40 minutes. I don't think any of that stuff was overly interesting enough to justify like a 2 hour and 20-minute long, like this is essentially like a Marvel movie now,
Yeah.
which I, it's funny, you always say Hallmark, I say, that they are the like Marvel of horror, this like cinematic universe, very formulaic.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I won't be entirely negative. I think there is things that do work. The first half of this movie works far more for me than the second half of this. I did enjoy like being with the family. What is it? The Smurls. Is that their last name? Smurl or something? Yeah, Smurls. Like, I like that stuff. I liked the, kind of almost this, I kept thinking about like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like, they're kind of in like this decrepit, like low income house, and it's like the whole family lives in this tiny house. There's 8 of them, and they're close knit, but they obviously don't have a ton of money, and like all that stuff. I was really interested in, like kind of the general haunting and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, like this is I like this. But to me, and I know, like these aren't made for me, obviously. Like, to me, I'm like all the other Conjuring movies I've seen, my interest, just the minute Ed and Lorraine come in, I'm just like not interested anymore. I'm not bought into them as characters. Like, I just really don't care about them. So I guess the family stuff, I don't really care about. I think once we get into the spoiler room, I think a lot of what they're trying to build with Judy as an adult now, I'm just like, really? Like, this is what we're doing? And I just think it's cheap. I think it's a money grab. I mean, obviously, people were pumped for this. This already has outperformed it at the box office as the highest grossing first weekend in horror ever.
What?
Yeah, like this is already, it's all made almost, I think the first weekend numbers were like almost $200 million. So,
Ooh, I have things to say about that in spoiler free as well.
yeah, I mean, so the first half, like I said, I enjoyed as it goes on, as we get kind of more grandiose, more ridiculous. I liked it less. I thought a lot of stuff looked bad, like just really
yes.
bad.
I bet I know the one thing you're thinking of.
Oh, I mean, there's a couple things, but yeah, there's probably, I'm sure somewhere there's something we're thinking the same. But I just, to me, when I think about, I'm like popcorn horror recently in the last couple years and stuff, like, I think about something like Smile or something like that, where I'm like, you know what? Like, it looks pretty good. It's pretty wild, something like Barbarian, or like where the monster design's awesome, and this is just like, I just thought the monster design was really weak in this, and it was just kind of like retreads of like, yeah, this is kind of what I would expect from The Conjuring. And like I said, I continue
Whoa.
I continue to say these things about it, and I know it's not for me. I know that, like, I heard someone, I can't think of who, but someone talking about how The Conjuring is like, it's that perfect horror movie for people that don't like horror movies. Because it's like, it'll scare them, but it's not like so violent or scary that it kind of like turns a non-horror person off.
I think that's partially true, but I also think it's the type of horror. I think like exorcisms and like that type of horror, I think people are really scared of that. I'm speaking like personally, but I've heard other people say the same thing, so this is me speaking out into the void. But maybe it's because people like me find that stuff really scary, and we don't find slashers and other things scary. So this is like the type of movie to go see if you want to be scared. And also, it has that popcorn flick vibe, like you said. And also, they always come out during the fall. So that's when people want to see those movies. And they're already like a well-known, established horror franchise, like very mainstream. I think that also has to do with the kind of lore behind it being based on true stories. And like people are interested in that. And they also think that makes it a little bit more scary as well. But I agree with everything you said, and I have notes about that.
The only other real thing that I would like, did enjoy, I enjoyed the kind of 80s aesthetic in this. I always liked something set in the 80s. I thought like some of the music stuff was pretty good. I obviously like, it's got like The Cult and, even playing stuff like Ray Parker Jr. Ghostbusters. Like there's a couple Ghostbuster jokes in this, and like there's some good 80s music that I liked, just to appeal to me, to grab something that I'm like, okay, anything that I'm not bored to death, or I can be like, okay. But yeah, I don't have a lot of spoiler-free notes.
All right. Well, let me respond to a couple of things that you said. So you talked about liking like the first half more than the second, and you explained your reasons why. And I agree. I feel the same way. I really think there seemed to be an imbalance in the storytelling when it came to who the plot was following. So the narrative felt balanced in the beginning because they had like seamless transitions about like who the story was about, and they had really good transitions too. Like I remember really liking those shots, and it really set me up for thinking, okay, this is going to be like a really great movie. So yeah, like I said, the first part of the movie did a good job at balancing the two narratives, and in this way, this movie was very much front-loaded. I was very much enamored with the story of the Smurls. I think their dynamic, kind of like what you were saying, was very interesting. And I thought that this is also when the movie was at its scariest and when it worked the most. And I just want to shout out these three actresses: Rebecca Calder, who played Janet; Kyla Lord Cassidy, who played Heather; and Bo Gadsden, or Gadsden, who played Dawn. The two daughters are British actresses as well, which I thought was cool. Especially like the two kids, they haven't really been in much else.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really interesting that they had arguably the best performances in the whole movie for me. And I wanted to see more of them. And this is where my biggest issue, I think, comes in, is that the Smurls, who played a large role in building the story up, are thrown literally into the street when Ed and Lorraine and Judy and Tony come along. So all this time is spent on these four characters like Ed and Lorraine and the kids, and it's just way too much. And we don't get any real closure with the Smurls either. Like after the haunting and the exorcism sort of thing, like it just moves on. It doesn't, like there's a disconnect with that story. And also I really don't care about Tony, who is Judy's fiance or whatever. And while I do understand why they spent so much time on his character, I don't think it was really needed, and it takes time away from what I wanted more of, which was the Smurls. And the last bit of the movie ended up being disappointing to me because it was solely focused on the Warrens, and the Smurls are totally forgotten, and it's just so imbalanced with the storytelling, which is very disappointing. And also, you were talking about the special effects and also the scares. What I generally love about the Conjuring movies that I like is that they're actually scary. And that's because they're reliant on the beats to make jump scares. And those are effective. And they usually have like pretty decent special effects. And this movie had none of those things because the special effects was lacking in comparison to other movies in the franchise. And the creatures weren't scary at all. Also, because they were on the screen for way too long and way too often, and the lighting was off. And even without that, the makeup or the prosthetics, it just didn't look right. Like it looked goofy, and it really detracted.
I feel like
from
a
the
lot of
scariness.
it, I think there was a lot of it too that should have been practical, that you could tell like a lot of the scenes they did like CGI or something.
Yes,
And
yes, absolutely.
That kind of ruined it.
Yeah, it just, none of that really worked for me, and I just lost interest. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it for now.
Yeah, and I'll say, just because you brought it up, like I really like Mia Tomlinson as Judy. Like I thought, I mean, it's pretty hard. Like I'm a huge Patrick Wilson fan, and I'm also a huge Vera Farmiga fan, and they are very, I mean, they suck in all the air in a room when they're in it. Like their presence, they have such huge presences, and I just thought as adult Judy, she did a really good job, because I was most interested in her. And as well, I agree, like the two older Smurl kids, the teenagers, I thought they were fantastic too. Like I thought they were really good. Yeah, the only thing I'll kind of say, probably the last thing I'll say in the spoiler-free section in response to you, is that I also kind of had an issue with the jump scares and stuff. I found that the most unappealing thing to me with kind of these, like, you know, popcorn blockbuster horror things is when I can essentially sit in the theater and count the beats of like, we're getting ready to do the jump scare, and I can just do like a countdown, and then the jump scare comes exactly when I'm done. And I'm just like, there's nothing more unattractive in a movie to me than that. And I'm just like, the problem that I have with kind of this whole universe is like, because it's set up as this like this is like a horror for not horror people, is that predictability. It's just like, okay, like our jump scares basically are going to come after like a 3 count of silence. And I think we had these exact same issues with The Nun too, also, was like Michael Chavez really has this style, and James Wan also, but a little less. He has a little more flair, so I don't hold it against him as bad. But Chavez has this style where, like, he'll basically, it's almost like muted sound, and like you just, like, you know, because everything changes for those couple seconds and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, like everything's silent now, so now I'm gonna get the jump scare. And he never fakes out. Like, they rarely ever fake out, which to me, you could, like, that would help a bit if it was like, okay, you're faking a jump scare, but most of the time they're like, no, we'll just do the jump scare.
So I don't have a problem with having predictable jump scares if the jump scare is still scary enough
Yeah.
to get me, like the other Conjuring movies. But this one, there was like no payoff. But also there were times when I would see like two glowing lights and I'd be like, oh, they're obviously going to zoom in and it's going to be eyeballs and it's going to be the demon. And there was like 2 times I can specifically remember where that didn't happen. So I don't know. I just expected more also.
Yeah, I can see that. So would you recommend people going to see this in the theater?
Okay, this depends. So yes, I recommend if you're a fan of the franchise or you're just looking for a spooky popcorn flick this time of year. And, so why not? But also, I would also recommend not going to the theater and watching it and maybe just waiting for it to come out on streaming if there are other movies that you would rather see in the theater right now. So it's your choice. Like, I don't know. I don't really have like a solid answer. It's kind of like a mixed bag, like I said earlier. So I don't know. Make that decision for yourself. What do you think, Rowan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the wrong person really to ask, right? I mean, I'm going to say probably not. This is one that I probably could have waited till streaming to see and I'd be all right with it. I think a lot of people are going to say, oh, you got to see it on the big screen, like this grand conclusion to like everything they've been building since 2010. And when we get into the spoiler discussion, I'm going to discuss why I think that's also a cop-out. I think this is all just a cash grab and all that good stuff. So I'm going to say no on that. So with that, why don't we cut on over to the spoiler section? We are now in our spoiler section. So if you haven't seen the film yet, this is a chance to pause it. Maybe go see it, then come back and listen, or just keep listening if you simply don't care. So, Jill, we talked a lot about, there's like some smiling demons in this that look really bad. I can't even think of one good looking one.
No.
CGI or the lighting was really bad.
Yeah.
To me, I was like, this looks like a scare from 2010.
Yeah, it does look kind of dated. Like, something about it isn't right. Like, it's not scary enough. It looks like something I would find at, like, if I went to, I don't know, like a local farm for like a corn maze. Like, this is a scare actor I would expect to see. And specifically the farmer guy with the axe.
Yes.
Maybe this says more about me than anything else, but I thought he was actually like a little bit more sexy than scary.
Like, of course you would. So the one time I thought he was used effectively was kind of the first introduction to him.
In the background
with the lights. They kind of do the lights out thing with them. And I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Like, I like that. But yeah, like we said, like the problem is instead of just teasing you with the horror, they're like, oh, well, now we're just going to show you the full thing for way too long amount of time. And yeah, it doesn't look good. So like I said, they just any goodwill they build, I just found they blew it.
Yeah. There was too much like lighting, too much daylight, too much bright lighting. It made everything like that much more obvious and that less scary. The other thing, and this was the thing I was kind of alluding to earlier, was that big ass goofy Annabelle. Is that what you were thinking of?
No. So this is funny because I didn't mind that. I was like, whatever.
No?
I mean, I have no connection with Annabelle. Like I said, I've never seen the movies.
Dude, that looks so bad.
I was just like, whatever, because it was already like, this is terrible. So I'm like,
yeah, but that was like a cardinal sin. I don't know. Dude.
I didn't hate it. I don't know what about it. Maybe if I watched it again, maybe I was just so bored. I was like, whatever. But like, I would have rathered the giant Annabelle than, this stupid smiling old woman and, so much of it just
I know.
Yeah. I did like the eyes. I will say I did actually like when she's watching the VHS tape and there's okay, and that, like I said, you can telegraph. You know it's coming. You're like, oh yeah. There's gonna be. But I thought like the eyes, seeing
that
the
was
eyes,
pretty good.
You know, that's always creepy.
But they kept showing it.
Yeah, you can't use the trick more than once, and it's just like let's just do it all the time.
And then, especially with that scene, I was like, wow, this demon looks like Chris Motionless. Now I'm aroused. So it also didn't work for me. But going back to the Annabelle thing, I don't understand like why there are so many references to Annabelle. Like they just kept throwing her in there over and over. Like, and I felt like it was kind of weird to...
New Annabelle movie coming? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe.
They're just like, stop. Just like, stop making all these movies. Like, have some dignity. But it didn't tie into the story for me. And then like the Judy and the Annabelle thing, I was like, okay, is this just like her trauma and she keeps seeing it? But it didn't like pay off or anything. Like there's, again, it sets something up and doesn't pay it off. And I actually wrote this down, which kind of goes with what you're saying. I said, Annabelle looked not great and literally didn't tie into the movie except for a weak attempt to capitalize on Annabelle's popularity, which does a disservice to the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they want to remind you of all the romps Ed and Lorraine are having in these movies. And I mean, that kind of goes into like what my main kind of issue with this is, you know, you brought up Tony. There's this underlying thing of Tony and Judy and the marriage and, you know, like Tony trying to win the approval of Ed and all this stuff. And like as this went on, I just kept being like, oh my, I was like, are we doing this? Oh yeah, we are doing this. Because I thought this could have probably been done better. I thought it really cheapened everything they were trying to do emotionally for the audience, you know, like wrapping up stories for these characters that, you know, you've had like 15 plus years with. Because I'm like, well, I can see exactly what they're doing. Judy now has the exact same power as Lorraine, and you know,
it's gonna be her and Tony.
Ed basically is passing the knowledge down to Tony. So I'm like, you know, now they can just be like, well, guess what? You know, this Conjuring movie just printed us some money, so let's just keep going. Which, surprise, surprise, I saw yesterday they've announced the Conjuring TV show, which is now going to be a thing, which maybe these guys will go into like the TV universe or something like that. I can't see Patrick Wilson and them signing on to do like a television show. And especially because like the people making the show, like one is just getting money. He has nothing to do with it. I don't even think like Michael Chavez isn't doing anything with it. But that was kind of my issue is I just thought all this feeling that they want you to have, especially by the end of Warmth, I was like, what I just said about the, you know, capitalizing to say, hey, we can definitely do spin-offs, we can do all this kind of stuff. And then you brought it up in the spoiler-free section, the fact that you were like, no one's gonna die. They tease you a couple times that maybe Ed's about to kick the bucket with the heart pills. He's going to have a heart attack. To me, I think they probably could have got some emotional weight there if they just killed him at some point. Maybe like, yeah, you know, and then they can like come together as a family with the loss of Ed, like beating this, you know, the demon that almost took his daughter. And he could have really had like a fuck you death kind of thing. But they played it safe, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that.
I wonder how much also that they're allowed to do with Ed and Lorraine because they're based off of real people. And there's like a kind of a respect for them. So I don't know if they would actually like go against what happens. I know they go against what happens in real life all the time, but like in such a serious way, like, oh, he died here when he actually, you know, didn't.
And that's probably, I would think that's probably a hard thing to do with this, where, like, these were real people, and, they didn't, like, die at this time, but at the same time, I guess, I'm like, you're making up half this shit anyway. Like, they're not even really following the true stories, other than, because obviously, like, the Smurl thing is, like, this is, like, probably one of their more well-known cases. They wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a very popular book. There's a TV movie from the 90s that's this story. Like all this stuff, I think they were kind of proved wrong. I know the father in real life he had a brain surgery. Like,
he had like meningitis or something.
Yeah, and they had to like remove a part of his brain, and they basically like had said that he had like medical things wrong with him, that he'd like hallucinate and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. I saw that too, but I was also on Reddit and someone who was a neighbor said they saw some shit. So I don't know. I don't know. It's likely that a lot of it was made up, but I think there has to be, I don't know, maybe more to it than him just having hallucinations and stuff. Like if his whole family, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Went along with it, you know what? Who knows?
Like I said, most of this stuff, it's going to be argued. There's lots of people that believe Ed and Lorraine. There's lots of people that are like me, that are like they were just kind of scammers, and none of this worked. I did have a question for you. I was curious, like, how you felt about, like, because kind of, they introduced, like, this is like a big bad demon that's, it's like the final boss, and it's controlling these three other, like, evil demons, and, this big bad demon's the one that tried to kill Judy as a child, coming from the mirror. Yeah. But I thought it was kind of interesting, and maybe I thought it was interesting just because of how popcornish this movie is like, you don't ever really confront like a big bad demon. I just thought it was interesting. Like, this is one of many threads in this that they kind of are interested in exploring, and then I find they just drop, and they somehow drop all these threads, and it's still 2.5 hours long. I will say one of the things I did like towards the end, like the stuff with the mirror. I was like, oh yeah, that's a cool idea, where like they're basically seeing themselves, but they're like demons, and they're fighting each other through this mirror. I was like, that's fine. The mirror in general was stupid. Like the mirror attacking people and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I have a couple of things to say.
It ain't no mirror.
I was just going to say that. It ain't no mirror. Where's Mike? But yeah, I thought it was funny that they kind of built up this kind of like grandiosity of this demon. It's the first one, and it followed them, or it found them again. And I really thought there was going to be like some sort of like deal with the devil that they made with this demon to bring Judy back to life as a baby, and there was like a remnant left inside of her or something, and it was coming back. That's what I really thought was happening, but that would have been a way better story than what we actually got. So maybe they should hire me. Call me.
Yeah, call you. There you go.
But yeah, I just wanted like more clarity on what was happening there, and also they had a great opportunity to bring out a big bad demon that maybe would have looked better than everything else we saw, and have a cooler battle than just like everyone coming together with like the strength of family and, I don't know, the spinning mirror. But also this mirror, guess where that mirror came from in the story?
Do tell us.
Guess where I'm watching this movie today? In Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Bucks County. Just,
Yep. So I was like, oh God, here. And yeah, I think there's like real beef with Pennsylvania and, items in the Conjuring universe, because I don't know if I told this story on the podcast before, but this is a real life story. Over the summer, everybody's phone in PA just like got this emergency alert that 911 was down. Did I tell you about this?
No.
Okay. So yeah, I remember being inside of a Wawa, which is a Pennsylvania institution, gas station, and everybody's phone was going off with that like really creepy alert, and everyone was freaking out because like 911 was down. Do you know what was happening at the same time that 911 went down statewide in PA?
What?
The real Annabelle doll this is when all the Annabelle stuff happened this summer. Like the guy died and everything. It happened in fucking Pennsylvania. And that day that she like crossed the border into Pennsylvania, this happened. I'm trying to remember. I think it was also Bucks County, possibly. I need to check into that. But yeah. So there's like real beef with Pennsylvania. And this also happened like near Scranton, like the real life haunting and stuff, which is not too far from me. So it was kind of interesting because they had like the Scranton Diocese Church. That's the church that like Father Gordon goes to.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they actually filmed it there or not, but yeah, that I was looking it up, all correlates with the real story. Like it was the Diocese of Scranton and they had like Scranton priests and stuff like in and out of the house. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, that probably all ties in somewhere there with, I know I saw in the news there that, like, that, like, hack comedian owns, like, the museum now, the Matt Rife guy, that they own, like all Ed and Lorraine's accursed items or whatever. So, I mean, hopefully those guys get haunted.
Yeah, what a terrible idea. And what a terrible idea to take Annabelle on tour. Like, the Warrens, I think, always said that Annabelle was the most, like, cursed object they've ever had. So why the fuck is this bitch on tour? I don't know.
Yeah, it just seems stupid. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, the main issue with this, especially in the spoiler section, is there's not a lot to spoil because, all the plot points we've hit of, giant Annabelle doll, bad-looking demon woman, farmer, 1800s farmer that Jill would like to do things to. Like, that's it. Like, that's it. And the rest of this is like this bloated farewell to this family. But like I said, that's just cheap because they're doing a TV show and, they're either going to greenlight some other movie. And I'm sure Ed and Lorraine will make some sort of little appearance and all that kind of thing.
Right.
Like I said, overall, I maybe it's just, I just don't get it.
So you're talking about like the capitalization of this and whatnot. I kind of have something about this.
Yes,
an
please.
issue with this is the marketing and the tagline and the way this was marketed in the trailers and such is that this is the case that ended their career. To me, it made it seem like this case was exceptionally terrifying, but that actually like wasn't the case. That's not why they stopped doing what they did. They stopped taking cases because they're old and Ed has heart issues.
Yeah.
And they have a child now and all this kind of stuff. And like they have a family. So I thought that was misleading. And I expected the movie to be scarier and I just didn't get a very scary movie. So I think that is detrimental to it. But I also think it's kind of a cheap hack to get people to watch your movie, being like, okay, this is the last Conjuring movie, so you have to watch it, right? But also, this is going to be the scariest one because this is the case that ended their career. Why don't they do this anymore? Oh, it must have been so bad. You know what I mean? Like, what is that?
Well, and, this just continues to, go on what we've been talking about, too, is like the Smurl case. I'm not going to say in real life, but the Smurl case in this movie, to me, is very interesting, very intriguing. But the minute the Warrens come into this, all of them, and Tony, the movie the movie totally switches where the Smurl family is an afterthought. Like, it's not about them anymore. The haunting stuff is happening to the Warrens. It's not even happening to the Smurls the minute they come. And I was like, well, just to me, I was like, this is a way less interesting story. And even with the connection to the birth stuff, like I was just like, I want to see the Smurls and there's no real like resolve for that. It's just the resolve for the Warrens, and I was just like, oh, that kind of sucks. I was kind of robbed of it, what could have been really good.
But they're at Judy's wedding.
Yeah, they're at Judy's wedding. James Wan's there.
Everybody's at Judy's wedding. Why is everyone at Judy's wedding? Is it kind of weird to invite James Wan to your wedding? And also all these people that you did haunted stuff with. I don't know.
That is kind of weird. Like, you're just like, hey, remember 10 years ago when we helped your family? Would you like to come attend our wedding? But good for all them. Everyone getting a paycheck. They're like, let me get that Conjuring paycheck one last time.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they really did try to make it an interesting, like, final installment, and they made a final installment. But it could have been a lot better. I just wanted to say, because we've been kind of shitting on this a little bit, there were a couple of scenes that I really liked. And these are probably, I think they're all scenes with the Smurls. So, shocker. Actually, there's one that's not the Smurl family. It's the labor scene.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool, but I wanted more from it. Like, I thought the demon was going to be more present.
I liked that it wasn't. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I was like, it's like in the shadow. Like she sees the glimpse of it. That's it. I like that. I thought that was well done.
Okay. I just wanted more. But you're right. They probably would have blew it if they used all their lighting on it and showed it for like 5 minutes. But I really like the scene. Well, any scene with Dawn and Heather, the two Smurl eldest daughters. Especially, I like the scene of Dawn vomiting up blood in the mirror shards. I thought that was really well executed. Even like the non kind of horror scenes, I just really liked the dynamic between the two sisters. I don't know. It was just like entertaining.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
Yeah, they were so good. And also, I think it's funny that the confirmation gift was a mirror. And just like confirmations in general are just hilarious to me. And I don't know. My mom tried to get me confirmed when I was about that age, and I refused to do it.
You were afraid you were going to catch on fire when you entered the church.
Exactly. She was really mad that I didn't do it. Like it was a big deal. But my sister did it, and she got the present that I was supposed to get, which was a little teddy bear. So I was just wondering, like, I don't know, what's a normal confirmation gift? Big ugly mirror, big ugly haunted mirror. One thing we didn't talk about was the dog being thrown at the wall. I thought you would have something to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure for a normal audience, that's shocking. I mean, I'm surprised it didn't die. It really got whiffed there.
Yeah, it was still alive.
Yeah,
Still
trooper, real trooper.
Right. And I liked the scenes of the Smurls, like Jack, when he's levitating in bed. And you kind of see the demon like hovering over him. So I also read that the Smurls, like the parents, Jack and Janet, they reported being sexually assaulted, like him in bed and her on the couch or vice versa.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's them trying to like reenact that without being so like on the nose.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I also had saw that. I kind of assumed probably.
Okay.
Just because, there's no way they'd enter that territory in a Conjuring movie and just for the kind of audience it's for. So I was like, yeah, I feel like that's probably, they're like, we'll make the dad look like he's orgasming in the air or something, and that'll be it.
There you go. And I also read that the dog was actually like reportedly thrown at the wall. So they're picking up pieces of like what actually happened to put on there.
For some reason, I thought you were trying to tell me, like, in the production, they just biffed it at the wall. No. I was like, oh, shit, they're going to jail.
Oh, my God. Nope. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, yeah, let's rate this. So if you're new to the podcast, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Jill, what would you give Conjuring Last Rites?
Dude, I sound so worn out. My voice is going, and it's like midnight. And we're recording this, so please forgive us. My rating for The Conjuring Last Rites is an okay. And I don't know, the movie had really high points in the beginning and really low points in that last bit. And it was just a mixed bag. It's entertaining and it's a solid attempt to end the series. I just can't help but wonder how the movie would have been different with James Wan directing it. So yeah, the first two Conjuring movies are still my favorite, but it's an okay for me. Rowan, how do you rate it?
Now that we talked about and reflect on it, I think I'm also going to give it an okay. I was definitely going to give it an A. But, I'm thinking like other stuff I've given an A to. And, there's like a couple things that I'm like, oh, these are like cool kernels of an idea that I think they were successful enough with. It's just this is very bloated that and most of this I'm not interested in and I don't think looks good. So unfortunately, not my cup of tea, but you can probably do worse at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm gonna give it an okay also. So 2 okays, that's probably where it should be. I might think later on it should be lower, but that's fine. I'll live with my decision.
For the Smurls.
That's right. And if you aren't following us on social media, you can do so at It Slays Podcast pretty much anywhere. We're on Instagram, Letterboxd, Facebook, Tumblr, Slasher, TikTok. I don't know. I'm probably missing something. And if there's a social media, Bluesky, that's one. Yeah, anything I'm missing, we're probably there at It Slays Podcast. And Jill, why don't you let these lovely listeners know how they can become a horror hound?
Okay. If you're interested in joining the ranks of our horror hounds, like Holly, Nicholas, Sacrotype, Dan, Brian, Trevor, James, and Sam, head on over to Patreon and find us under It Slays Podcast and choose the tier that works best for you. Perks include early 48 hours access to episodes, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive show, Stream Screams, and the ability to choose movies for us to review. So you talked about some Ghostbusters songs, Rowan. Is there anything that's going to make it to the horrific playlist?
I think Ghostbusters is already on the playlist. I'll have to double check. If it's not, you put the Ghostbusters theme. That's kind of sad when that'll probably be what makes it from this movie. But other than that, I didn't think the score was standout in this. So there's probably not going to be anything added. But you can hear the songs that are on there at the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media I mentioned just earlier. Go into the bio, click the Linktree link, and there is a button there that will take you directly there. We upload licensed music or scores from iconic horror movies we review, or horror movies we just love. So follow it. We update it regularly and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? And next time on the show, I'm taking a look now. We're getting in the busy. It's going to be busy the next month, I feel, for Now Slaying. We'll see how much groaning Colton does at all the things I want to review. But I would say the next big one is Him, which is the new Jordan Peele produced football horror movie. And then maybe I can con Jill doing a side one. I see the new Witchboard remake is out, and I've been hearing good things. It's coming out.
Okay.
And it's directed by the guy that made Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. So I'm very interested to see what it's like. So maybe those two things in the future. And yeah, there's tons of stuff coming out towards the beginning of October. So we will be very busy on Now Slaying. So with that, as always, thank you for all the support. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Jill.
And if you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.